SpongeBob SquarePants is one of the most beloved cartoons of all time. You probably already knew that. But did you know that some episodes of our favorite SquarePants-wearing Sponge are so dark, they might actually be considered inappropriate for children? This is definitely the case in One Course Meal, which aired in 2010 during the show's 7th season. In this episode, Plankton is once again trying to steal the Krabby Patty secret formula, as always. But Mr. Krabs finds out that Plankton has a crippling fear of whales, thanks to his daughter Pearl, who is a whale. Which kind of makes sense since whales are known to feed almost exclusively on plankton. Instead of using this fear just once, Mr. Krabs begins to psychologically torment his enemy. He starts dressing up and creating terrifying whale traps to scare Plankton daily. Eventually, Plankton falls into a deep state of paranoia. He isolates himself completely, growing long hair, a beard, and even massive fingernails. And in a very controversial moment, he says he has no reason to go on and tries to throw himself in front of a bus, strongly suggesting an attempt to end his life. SpongeBob stops him just in time and tries to help. But the mental torture continues until the episode ends. This is easily one of the most disturbing episodes SpongeBob has ever produced. I remember watching it when it came out and being honestly creeped out. And guess what? It's not the only one. So buckle up because your mind is about to be blown, right? Right up there with Plankton's breakdown is the Nasty Patty episode. Originally aired in 2002 during Season 3, the episode starts when a health inspector shows up at the Krusty Krab. But SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs believe he's a fraud trying to shut the place down. So, to get revenge, they whip up a disgusting and toxic burger called the Nasty Patty, using moldy bread, old gum from under the table, and even a dirty old sandal, with a dash of spit and filth on top. But things go south real fast right before the inspector takes a bite. He chokes on a flying sea bug that accidentally flew into his mouth and passes out cold. SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs are convinced they killed him. Panicked, they try to cover up the accidental murder, bury the body, and do everything they can to avoid getting caught by the cops. In the end, it turns out the guy was a real health inspector, and he had only passed out from choking on the bug, not because of the gross burger. Luckily, he survives, and no one gets in trouble. Still, the fact that SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs genuinely thought they had killed someone and tried to hide the body stuck with me for years.
This should be far enough. Now get digging!
Another unforgettable episode for SpongeBob fans is Fungus Among Us, which came out in 2007 during Season 5. Much like something straight out of a horror movie, SpongeBob finds a weird glowing green slime on his floor, and when he touches it, he gets infected by a mutant fungus that starts spreading rapidly all over his body. Instead of getting help, he just ignores it and goes to work at the Krusty Krab like nothing's wrong. The infection spreads out of control, overtaking the whole restaurant and putting everyone in danger. The fungus gets into the food, the customers, and even Mr. Krabs himself, who totally freaks out. Things get so out of hand that the Underwater Disease Control Agency shows up, and SpongeBob is quarantined. He's only cured after a gross and bizarre treatment that involves peeling off his infected skin and replacing it with fresh, new skin. Honestly, this episode was so nasty, even by SpongeBob standards, that it legit made me lose sleep that night. Still, I'll always be a SpongeBob fan no matter what. And if you're into cartoons, shows, and movie content like this, hit that subscribe button right now. Another eerie case is the episode I Was a Teenage Gary, one of the earliest and creepiest episodes of the series, released in 1999 right around Halloween. SpongeBob and Patrick are going on a trip for a few days, so they ask Squidward to take care of Gary. Totally uninterested in pet sitting, Squidward gets distracted and forgets to feed the snail. When Gary gets sick, he calls the vet, who gives him an injection of snail plasma to cure him. The real nightmare begins when Squidward accidentally injects the snail serum into SpongeBob, who had just returned from his trip. After that, SpongeBob slowly starts turning into a snail, physically and mentally. He starts crawling up walls, meowing like a snail, and slithering all over the house, looking totally unrecognizable. In the end, in a panic, Squidward also ends up turning into a snail, and the episode closes in a bizarre way, with neither of them returning to normal. That alone is already terrifying. But what most people don't know is that this episode is actually based on a classic horror movie from 1957 called I Was a Teenage Werewolf. That makes it clear the writers and animators were absolutely trying to freak out SpongeBob fans with this episode. Now back to gross stuff. There's no way we can skip the episode Earworm, also released in 2010. It all starts when SpongeBob hears a super catchy and ridiculously simple tune. He starts humming it over and over, even though he doesn't really want to. Little by little, he becomes totally obsessed with the song and starts losing touch with reality. The tune takes over his mind, driving him away from his friends, messing up his job at the Krusty Krab, and even keeping him from sleeping. SpongeBob starts scribbling the lyrics all over the walls, playing imaginary instruments non-stop and acting in a really disturbing and compulsive way. Worried about his mental health, his friends try to help him snap out of it, and they discover that inside SpongeBob's head is a musical worm that's driving him insane. The only way to get rid of it, Squidward has to play his terrible clarinet directly into SpongeBob's ear. That finally drives the music worm away, at least for now, because it soon finds a new host by crawling through Squidward's eye socket and into his brain, which is a terrifying thought on its own. Now let's talk about one of the most controversial episodes in SpongeBob history, Spongehenge. Things start off weird when strange winds begin to blow through Bikini Bottom and pass through SpongeBob's porous body, creating a sound that's somewhere between a flute and an accordion. At first, it attracts a bunch of jellyfish in a fun way, but soon they start chasing SpongeBob like crazy. Unable to escape, SpongeBob hides away in a far-off cave, where he ends up living totally alone for a long time. While in isolation, he spends his time carving giant stone replicas of himself. He soon realizes that these stone clones make the same weird sound he does, so he uses them to lure the jellyfish away. He builds a giant circle of stone SpongeBobs, which is clearly a nod to the real-world monument Spongehenge. After that, he finally makes it back to the Krusty Krab, only to find it completely buried in sand, hinting that he's actually been gone for decades, not just months. This scene is almost identical to the final moment of the classic movie, Planet of the Apes. 3,000 years later, we see underwater scientists studying the stone statues like archaeological treasures, now worshipped by jellyfish, implying SpongeBob lived out the rest of his life in isolation, which would be a truly heartbreaking ending for him. Another creepy SpongeBob episode with serious Hansel and Gretel vibes is Have You Seen This Snail? It all starts when SpongeBob gets a new toy and accepts the Dirty Bubble Challenge, hitting a ball with a paddle over 29 billion times. He becomes completely obsessed and ends up totally forgetting to feed or spend time with Gary. After days of being ignored and mistreated, the snail decides to run away. Gary finds shelter at the home of a sweet, seemingly harmless little old lady named Granny. She seems nice at first, but it turns out she's had many snails die under her care due to overfeeding. Little by little, Gary realizes the danger he's in and manages to escape and make his way back home. The reunion between Gary and SpongeBob is super emotional. SpongeBob cries, full of regret, and promises never to neglect his best friend again. Still, many fans were left wondering if Granny had been fattening up all those snails just so she could eat them later. There's a real chance SpongeBob's beloved pet was about to become escargot. Now let's talk about an episode from Season 1, SB-129. It kicks off when Squidward, fed up with SpongeBob and Patrick, looks for a quiet place to practice his clarinet. He heads into the Krusty Krab and ends up trapped in a freezer, where he stays frozen for 2,000 years. Seriously, no one noticed the guy was locked in the freezer for 2,000 years. When he wakes up, SpongeBob's neighbor finds himself in a hyper-futuristic world, where everything is white, sterile, and robotic versions of SpongeBob are the only things left. A total nightmare for someone who can't stand SpongeBob. Squidward tries to return to the past using a time machine but ends up going way too far back, landing in a prehistoric era with caveman versions of SpongeBob and Patrick. He desperately tries to return to his own time but gets stuck in nowhere. A white, silent void with absolutely nothing in it but himself. He screams for help in panic until he finally returns to the present in a totally unexpected way. In the end, completely traumatized, he resigns himself to spending time with SpongeBob and Patrick as the lesser evil. Watching poor Squidward go through all of that, only to realize he was utterly alone, was beyond unsettling. And if you're a huge fan of all things pop culture too, check out the 2 video options we've left on your screen. Pick either one. We promise you're gonna love it.